Hey everybody, welcome back to our free TV. And it is Tuesday, January 6th, 2026. And I'm so glad to be back with you here on the channel. I'll jump right in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution, protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. And so we'll just jump right in. I want to say thank you to everybody who supports You Are Free TV. You make it happen, and I'm so thankful to be back with you here as we start out the kind of official, going forward here in the new year of 2026. And today being the anniversary, the 5th year anniversary, of course, of the January 6th attempt to bring to the Congress the fact that the election was stolen. And we have in DC, we had a presser and a kind of rally and march there to go before the Capitol and for the January 6th people to speak out about what's still happening. I believe there's still something like up to 15 people who still have not been pardoned. And of course, the scream out for Tina Peters to be freed. And so it's an incredible day here. The coup that happened on November 3rd, November 3rd of 2020 was the overthrow of the US government by the deep state globalists and the bankster cartels. And it overthrew our country, and it brought in what was the devastation of our country for 4 years under a mass invasion, a mass total pillage and rape of the country, a total stealing of everything, and we're seeing that now. And I can't. It's being uncovered, is what I'm saying. And what is I think couldn't be a better gift to humanity right now today is to see the uncovering of Michael Leroy Byrd, the man who was a Capitol Police officer with multiple already problems with his record, who murdered Ashli Babbitt at the Capitol, basically being uncovered for massive, huge, what is the ongoing fraud to do with the daycare financial grift. And this is about $190 million that Byrd was basically set up for. I would say that Nancy Pelosi's really on the hook here for what's going on, because we're looking at Michael Byrd having his own daycare center that since 2021, after the murder that he committed, now he then started a daycare at his home, supposedly, and has $190 million of our taxpayer dollars that have gone to him. And this is an incredible day. So we're going to get into that in a moment. I'm going to put on the glasses. I want to talk about a few other things first, plus more besides, to do with what is now the tripolar world order that is coming to take over and destroy the multipolar world order of the World Economic Forum, the cartel bankster elite that were planning to just insert their banksters everywhere and take over a complete slavery system planet of neo-feudalism that is being shut down by Trump and allies, but hugely by Trump and the administration here. So it is massive. It is incredible. We should be so thrilled. But I want to start with this to do with Christians in Bethlehem, in the West Bank, what is now called the West Bank, in Israel, and how they're slaughtering the Christians there, and how for me on this channel, the reason that Christianity is being destroyed and attacked across the world in the First Nations of Western civilization is because Christianity offers, of course, this personal freedom that comes from Jesus Christ as your Savior, but it also outlines what is the incredible rights of the human rights, the natural rights of every human that they have with God to be their own personal free agent in this world, okay, to do with your own morality and what it means to occupy your own morality, your own telic center, as the Greeks would say, that you are an agent who can take on ethics and then in your occupation in the world, expose those ethics, put them forth, and create a society that then um, grants human rights, grants what is our Declaration of Independence, what is our rights in this country. And this country, the United States of America, is the most free and incredible country in the world when it comes to those things. It doesn't exist anywhere else, as we've seen. You don't need me to describe that too much, but I wanted to describe what's going on with Jason Jones out of the Vulnerable Peoples Project. He spent vulnerablepeoplesproject.com, I think, at Jason Jones VPP on X. But he is this incredible person who has been working for Christians worldwide. We've seen again in Nigeria more attacks and what's going on with Christians there. But he has specifically been talking about the West Bank. Now, Trump has said he will not allow Netanyahu, of course, who has been spending time at Mar-a-Lago over the last week. Trump has said he will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. But what we have is what they call settlers, but they're basically militia out of the IDF and out of Israel, Jewish people coming in and destroying Christian civilization. To the point there in the West Bank, now they're only being 10% Christian. So in Bethlehem, okay, when we think of the birth of Christ and the oldest churches, this is what's going on, is that they are destroying them, they're burning them down, they're destroying their farmlands hugely since this last fall in the harvest. They went in and destroyed the harvest, have been assaulting the Christians there, burning down their homes, everything. And I wanted to put this out there first because I think it is the most important thing that we understand, that without a Christian base across the world, we will not have freedom for humanity. Christianity, with its own golden ruler, with its own self-centered ethics, then you cannot have it. You cannot have freedom. You can't have it freedom. You can't have freedom with Sharia law. You can't have freedom with Buddhist whatever. This is about the person taking responsibility for their actions without putting it to something else and saying, I can excuse my lying, my stealing, my grift, my whatever through some other, religious law. Okay. The Christianity is the only thing that says the law is the golden ruler. Okay. Do unto others. And it has given birth to the most amazing nation in the world that is protecting what Trump is doing. And he did a great speech today in his hour and 15 minutes with the GOP today in their retreat at the Trump Kennedy Center there in DC, basically asking the GOP to take action. So important. And we're going to get into that in a moment. But I did want to cover this first, that there is massive violence and destruction in the Jews that are going into the West Bank and destroying Christianity there. So let's just put that out there. Trump said, I won't allow Israel to annex the West Bank, but it's happening. And we know there is this whole situation with trying to destabilize China by, claiming, trying to stop, the delivery of oil to China, whether it is through Iran, whether it is through Venezuela. Basically, China cannot do its war on Taiwan if they don't have the amount of energy and fuel that they need to do that. They can't win the AI race if they don't have the energy and fuel to do that. That's part of it, and it's a very important part of it while we look at hemispheric defense and protecting the Western Hemisphere. So it's all very interesting what's going on, but I did really want to put this out there that between India, what's going on with attacking the oldest Christian settlements there from St. Thomas in India, it's across the world, the destruction of Christians. So that's where we come in with our prayers. It's where we come in with our real force and might here. Okay, there's a book by Ibrahim. What is his last name? I can't remember at the moment. But the two swords of Christ. One is, of course, the sword of the gospel. The other is the defense of Christianity, and what it means that God gave you your entire self and your free will to do good things with it. So I'm going to move on from there and talk about some other stuff, and we're going to get into, of course, Michael Byrd, guilty or found at least $190 million of our stolen taxpayer dollars going to his Byrd family, preschool. All right, $190 million. Okay, crazy town. But all part of it as 5 states now have had their funds frozen by HHS to do with child care. This includes Ohio, Illinois, Minnesota, New York, and California. And there's more going to come out besides. We have the vaccine schedule for children being totally brought down from 72, life-destroying shots down to possibly only 11 if people take the action to only do the 11. Quite amazing out of the CDC. But let's get into it for a couple things. Okay, I really wanted to mention that we have a couple of really big bills that really need to be supported. And this is out of Josh Hawley teaming up with Bernie Sanders. Okay. And Bernie Sanders, I mean, tons of Bernie Sanders voters came over to vote for Trump because of the populism. And what's going on with Josh Hawley, the senators, and Bernie Sanders is the bill that is to enact Trump's executive order to cap credit card thievery, their interest rates, okay, that I guess look like they're about 22.8% on credit cards that is just, killing Americans because of course, through the COVID destruction of this country. We have everybody living on credit cards. And Trump had vowed to say, I'm going to cap this at 10%, put out an executive order on it, but you can't do that until you legislate. And what we have with Josh Hawley and Bernie Sanders, and then in the House, AOC teaming up with Anna Paulina Luna, and I like it. I think it's fantastic. Capping the interest rates on credit cards at 10%. These bills are so important. I will link them below, but it does take your calls and your action. I'm going to ask for action multiple times through this video because Trump asked for our action. So I'm going to get to that too. But these bills, you want to be calling 202-224-3121 to your senators that they back Josh Hawley and Sanders. You want to be calling 202-225-3121 to your House representatives that they back Anna Paulina Luna with AOC to back this capping credit card interest payments with a 10% only interest rate. Okay, that is people getting out of the hole basically 2.5 times faster. Okay, and it is massively important. So get on that train and let's do it, because we know that very soon at the end of January 30th, we know we had just had a continuing CR on the shutdown of the government, and it's coming hard with Chuck Schumer again, who isn't long for his position in Congress, but he's still going for it hard. But there will be another government shutdown because of the healthcare fraud. And as I've been saying forever, this situation of the healthcare fraud is the backbone of the massive grift that in the steal of 2020, they were able to then, it's been going on before that, However, they went for full broke, okay, with bringing in massive numbers of an invasive force of people from out of this country to come in and get on to these welfare programs to do with healthcare. And we have Maura Healey out of Massachusetts giving like 30,000. I think Maura Healey, the governor of Massachusetts, is might be looking for a 2028 run, okay, here for president. I've been saying that now for about a month or so, and the more I look, the more I see. Maura Healey, she's giving $30,000 to every invader that wants to buy a house, $4,000 per month for rent and expenses to every person who is not an American citizen, $500 per month for groceries. It goes on from there. Free healthcare, free childcare, all of it. But what we're seeing, okay, as the globalists continue, as we see with Zohar Mamdani and the capture of New York City and trying to push communism onto this country, the capturing of the cities has been, of course, the World Economic Forum's a playbook for about over a decade of Soros money, putting in our DAs, our AGs, and putting into local government and supporting their campaigns with millions of dollars to get all these people into office to carry out the capture of the cities, where you see the COP 50, the COP 50 mayors, and all of this aligned with globalism and the sustainability goals. It's like we're still talking about that. It seems like, could we just, is that over yet? But no, it's not. Even though the head of the UN Security Council, right, the rotating position, he's being caught out as well in this healthcare fraud in the United States out of Ohio. And we're going to get into that in a moment. But yeah, so that's action to take. And so I think from there, I'm going to go to President Trump's speech today, because he has called us to action as well. And action, action, action is the call for 2026. We have the midterms. And Trump's main, focus in his address today was, we need to win the midterms. None of this losing the midterms as per some ridiculous, the way it's gone. It's not going to go this way, especially while Maduro sits in a jail cell in Brooklyn, New York. Okay, in the confrontation, whatever's going there, we're seeing Norm Eisen's lackey, who also represented other really creepy people. We're seeing Norm Eisen showing up here again, the lawfare architect, Barry Pollock now representing Maduro. And so very interesting. We'll see what's going on there, but a lot to dig in there. But I'm going to come back here to Trump's speech, and then we'll go on from there, and I'll get into Michael Byrd and the fact that on J6 and all the suffering, all the deaths, the murders, that he is now being found out to have received $190 million, okay, from our federal taxpayer dollars, okay? And we're seeing people like Savannah Hernandez and others just calling for a total tax, protest, don't pay your income tax, all of this. And I get it, it sounds really good, but let's get into this. What Trump had to say as a roadmap to victory for the GOP was, number one, midterms, okay, that we absolutely need to win the midterms. He said, or else they're going to impeach me and they're going to hold us up forever. And the mainstream media took this as being like, oh, he's canceling elections and all this baloney. Okay, just complete and utter baloney. The impeachment things are already coming down the pike. Trump briefly mentioning a 2028 run, as he does. And this is Trump saying things as he does, and often to provoke a reaction. And so we take that, we grog it, we put it through our mental understanding. And speaking of mental understanding, before I get into Trump's speech, I just really want to remind people that at this point in time, about 55% of the internet, to do especially with social media, is completely AI bots. 55%. So more than half of what's going on in social media is all AI bot run, entrainment, brainwashing. going on social media. So it's not a human. This is instructed AI putting out talking points and counterpoints and responses and comments and all of this. And it's why I don't spend time on social media at all. Okay, I check out a couple things where there's great reporting going on and people giving information, and that's it. Don't spend and waste your precious human life, your beautiful life, on scrolling and scrolling. Don't do it. Get involved in the human sphere, and we need you to do it, especially right now in 2026 with the midterms coming. We need this to absolutely be what you focus your attention on, and Trump called for it. Basically, he said in his address at the Trump Kennedy Center today, he said that life is all about making deals. That has to do with success in life, and it also has to do with the success in America, and that all he wants to do now is to make money for Americans. Okay, I hope that gets to people's minds that as Trump is having to deal with an entire world of globalist banksters that have implanted themselves across banks in every sphere of the world, including all of South America and the Western Hemisphere and Canada, etc., that we have a president that is trying to derail the cartel banksters of what was the multipolar world of the World Economic Forum elite, City of London and royals out of the Netherlands and et cetera. And when you hear people like Michael Yon or Catherine Austin Fitts, who I love in so many respects, they're always in Netherlands. It's like, why aren't you here in America? Why aren't you here in this country? Okay, with us. But whole other aside, they're always calling Trump some kind of gangster. Gangster fool who's just, selling out America. The absolute opposite is true. Everything that's happening here is to destabilize the bankster cartels. It is, as we see with Macron hosting in France, von der Leyen and Zelensky today, and Starmer and all of them, to figure out where they can rob the money from, where they can steal the money to do Scott Kelly, Mark Kelly's twin brother, Scott Kelly's, Fund Ukraine project, where, with Chrystia Freeland out of the World Economic Forum and former vice president of Canada after Carney kind of kicked her over to Ukraine, that they're trying to figure out where they can steal the money to make Ukraine their cash cow. Okay, and this whole, how do they figure out that they can, entrap Trump to convince that NATO should still exist, while we're hearing from Denmark, et cetera, that, if Trump goes after Greenland, well, that's the end of NATO. And on this channel, I'm like, yes, that's the end of NATO. Let's end NATO. Europe has no power. They have no police. They have no military. They don't have anything. And they've destroyed their own people, their own country, brought in tens and tens of millions of Muslims to destroy Christianity in those countries and to create total mayhem and destroy all their energy, all of their industry, and make their people suffer. And what the people need there is relief. They need the opposite. And so the end of NATO would mean the freedom. Without NATO, and the UN Security Council that I just talked about, where the Somali ambassador is now understood to have being in charge of multiple healthcare centers in Cincinnati, interestingly enough, thinking of what happened, what's going on with J.D. Vance, his house broken into, the situation with his brother trying to be a mayor and all of this. But progressive healthcare is controlled by the ambassador to the UN, who is now the head of the UN Security Council that's in charge of troops that could be sent in for peacekeeping. This was the multipolar UN control. It's over. It's ending. Okay, Trump defined that by going in with this precision strike to take out Maduro. All right, saying that the USA is fighting back finally since World War II. We're fighting back and we're saying, no, you're not going to just steal all our stuff and invade close up and get into this hemisphere. And we all know that the CIA did it for 60, 70 years. Okay, and it's not a defense of that. It is the opposite. It is, how do we bring democracies, and I even hate that word, how do we bring new constitutions and hopefully Republican constitutions to these countries to actually then act as sovereign nations in alliance with the USA, restore Venezuela to its incredible might and wealth that it has. It was the fifth largest, wealthiest country in the world before Chavez was installed, okay, out of Cuba. And while we look at this, there's a lot of success on the horizon. It doesn't mean the U.S. is going to take over Venezuela at all. It's telling the world we could. We took out Maduro. He's there in Brooklyn, okay, and we've got General Caravel there, who's been in prison for drug trafficking, who knows everything, who was the former intelligence guy for Maduro and Chavez. And so all of this is happening. We don't know the outcome yet, but we know that it is a shifting out of the multipolar, okay, World Economic Forum, Davos run world, bankster elite, to a tripolar situation where Trump is dealing with Russia, dealing with China, and saying, we're leveraging all of this. We're going to leverage all of this oil and energy that usually goes to China. We might be able to stave off this Taiwan invasion for a while if they can't fund it, if they don't have the energy for it. And of course, this Iran situation gets into it, and that can wait till further in the week. What's going on with Iran and the color revolution there. But let's get back to Trump and what he had to say, his roadmap to victory for the GOP this coming year. Basically, what he had to say was that we need the victory in the midterms, and we absolutely need this to happen. And he also said, number two was put up the SAVE Act, Johnson and Thune. Get the SAVE Act into a vote immediately. And so what the SAVE Act, and he wanted to rename it the Save America Act, which it is, especially as he's saying this 3 days after Maduro's capture, and the Smartmatic software, all of it that stole our elections. And he's saying, get this up. And Trump was so incredibly friendly and just extremely judicious in the way that he gave his speech today. And almost too much so, because, he always speaks friendly to the people that he wants to do things for him in ways we want him to be like, do it or else. The American people are irate and they want this now. And of course, the SAVE Act, and this takes your action, and I'm going to put it up again for you to take action, but they want it up for a vote now. And the SAVE Act would bring voter ID having to be across the nation. Voter ID, same day voting, paper ballots, hand counted. Okay, it basically gets rid of the machines and it gives fair, real elections. And Trump is saying, get that done, House and Senate. Very friendly, very, very collegiate how he did it today. The way to do that on your end is 202-225-3121 for the House for your representative, but 2777 for Johnson. Okay, Johnson, the Zionist, who was really okay with the annexing of the West Bank. The creepy, crappy Johnson that Trump keeps praising up and down as he tries to control him. And then Thune in the Senate, we get 202-224-3121. And Thune is 2321 for Thune. This is to get the SAVE Act, if it's changed to the Save America Act, up there, then so be it. That's great. But we need your action to make those calls, or go to billblasterapp.org, or app it on your phone if you're an apper, and do it. Okay, contact them and demand that, and as well as the cap on the credit cards happen as well. That's all fantastic. And then Trump said, and this gets into what is the massive defining, just massive win, okay, that we're going through right now as we've been suffering so hard. We get him saying, give the healthcare money directly to Americans. We want legislation on this immediately. And it's what I'm tying into what I, started with on this video of Chuck Schumer that there's going to be another shutdown of the government at the end of January. Fine, I'm fine with it. I don't, shut it down. It's more time for Trump to do things behind the scenes. But basically, this gets into extending the Obamacare, payments, all of it, the fraud that is being exposed. HHS has come out and said through RFK Jr. that the fraud coming in this healthcare situation across not only those 5 states, but everywhere, is in the hundreds of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. It's massive, and it's so huge. And so Trump is saying, we want the healthcare money, okay, the subsidies from the federal government, to go straight to the American people, where they create a healthcare account for Americans, that they can choose their own healthcare. And we want that to include things like, you use that money to pay for your healthcare that you desire. In my life, that would be paying for supplements, paying for what they call alternative care, but basically doing things that support your health, that money could be used in those ways. Trump has called for I think he called the 12 largest insurance companies to be to meet with him very soon. And he's hugely against the insurance companies. And to understand, people, this insurance came out of Germany, I believe. Well, it came out of, in Rome. There was the fire insurance, right? Because they would just burn you down if you wouldn't pay their insurance. They wouldn't pay your tax, your insurance towards the government. They would just burn you down and say, well, you didn't pay your fire insurance. Well, then in Germany, it became a whole other thing. And then it came here, and it has become insurance for everything, when we should have the right, with our own property, our own lives, etc., okay, to not have those things. You shouldn't have to have insurance on your home. You shouldn't have to have insurance on your car. You can opt in to have it if you want, but you shouldn't have to have it. Okay, you shouldn't have to have it. That should be your choice, your option, your right to do it if you want, but not if you don't. And this could be a really great action. So, with 2026, with the midterms, precinctstrategy.com, get involved. We need to win these 2026 elections, especially as we had, of course, the strange and sudden death of Doug Lamalfa. Doug Lamalfa, 65 years old, died suddenly. Okay, Northern California Republican, dead at 65. He was in charge of the Congressional Western Caucus. He was the chair, and he'd been a rice farmer his whole life. Now he's dead, and died suddenly. And so we have now a very slim 2-vote margin as, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene makes her exit. And it's getting slim, and that's why the midterms are vital, and your participation is so important. And so let's get into now the situation of Michael Leroy Byrd, the killer of Ashli Babbitt, and what's gone on there. It is quite amazing. Okay, so this might clinch, okay, what is the most disgusting payoff. And I actually, I mean, what's really interesting is he lives in Brandywine, Maryland. Brandywine, Maryland, which I haven't had the time to check it tonight, but I'm pretty sure Brandywine, Maryland is the area where Luigi Mangione and his family comes from. Them having their huge connections to the D'Alessandro family. And of course, that is Nancy Pelosi and her family, and the D'Alessandro family out of Maryland being massive mafia from forever. Okay, and they have their own square in Haifa, Haifa, Israel, named after him, and Luigi Mangione, right? And the killing of Brian Thompson, the head of United Healthcare CEO. And this is where that was done as a preemptive for entertainment purposes only of now what we're seeing of everything unraveling. Okay, we've seen 2,000 more DHS agents sent into Minnesota today, where they're going hard bore and hardcore, breaking down doors in Minnesota. Police basically coming in and going after all the fraud, right? And it's been the payments have been stopped by HHS. And so Brandywine, Maryland, it's an interesting place apparently. It's very popular for the fraudsters. And one of them was the man, Michael Leroy Byrd, who killed Ashli Babbitt 5 years ago, as of today at 2:40 p.m. or something, East Coast time. And they've had a vigil today. There was a presser, and all of them talking about it. Enrico Torres of the Proud Boys there, everybody getting together to basically scream for the freedom of Tina Peters and to make sure that the rest of the J6ers are pardoned, and to thank Trump for their pardons and for standing up for them, while the Democrats held like an hours and hours and hours long congressional blah blah about J6. Okay. The pipe bomber thing is also blowing up, of Brian Cole. We're seeing that that is absolutely not checking out, as we already knew. I'll just throw that in real quick. Brian Cole Jr., the on the spectrum guy, who was literally could not have done it because all this evidence they're using of the pings on his car and his cell phone put him at different places than the actual pipe bomber was on January 6th. And again, covering up this situation that's already been uncovered. And now Dan Bongino gone. We'll see what happens with Battelle. We know we have the AG out of Missouri getting ready to step in. So we'll see what goes down there. But Trump always speaks friendly of people until then they're gone. And then something else happens. But that Capitol Police officer who had been named out of Blaze Media, etc., with the gate analysis, everything, she worked for Capitol Police, then went into CIA. Well, Brian Cole Jr., his case is ridiculously less than valid. And so we're going to see what goes on there. But back to Byrd and his family daycare payoff. Okay, this started with Mike Byrd, okay, who shot Ashli Babbitt. He gets rewarded for his silence and shutting up to opening the Byrd's family daycare with $190 million, $190 million of U.S. taxpayer money being paid to this daycare in the last 5 years, from 2021 to the present. And it's, unbelievable. Okay, so we have to expect that all, obviously he did not get that money, all of that money. He probably got a good portion of it. Silence isn't cheap. Okay, but even if he got 10% at 19 million, we have to look at Nancy Pelosi. Okay, we have to look at everybody in the Congress that is benefiting off of this. This grift is massive, and we are going to be finding out exactly who is getting all of it. and it's going to take a while, but it is up to us to put that pressure on, and also, of course, do what we do, dig into who's getting what's happening. We had DeSantis coming out in Florida today saying that he's going after looking at his anybody out of Florida that's connected to Congress and connected to the government, doing audits on them for insider trading knowledge, this kind of thing, but also for this kind of grift. So that is very good, very exciting out of Florida. We do love what DeSantis has done and is doing in Florida, and it is fantastic. But on this day, that in turmoil 5 years ago, as we watched President Trump a coup on our country, a complete and total globalist coup that was run out of our Congress. Mike Pence, all of them, John Brennan, Mike Pompeo, all of these people overthrowing our U.S. government 5 years ago today. That has cost us enormous amounts of lives of Americans, an invasion of our country, the stealing and looting. The whole point was to steal and loot and pillage the United States of America, and then to have it be destroyed, okay, so that it could not be a front against the globalist multipolar world order of the World Economic Forum and the banksters. And this is, of course, Davos coming up in 2 weeks, as I mentioned yesterday. And so very, very exciting to see what goes on here. I hope they start looking into Gavi. I hope they start looking into the money laundering, because gets into Nigeria, it gets into the slaughter of the Christians, it gets into Mike Pence out of Gavi. Of course, Bill Gates, all the rest of them. And we hope that comes next. And so I'm going to probably be leaving it there. A few short more info bits here. Maybe we'll touch in about what we've got here with Abukar Dahir Osman. Abukar Dahir Osman, who is, of course, now the president of the UN Security Council, who is the ambassador to the UN from Somalia, right? And Somalia is now a proxy country. Somalia is a proxy country out of Minnesota, okay? With the billions, I think that all of Somalia had something like it was like a $10 billion GDP. All of the money funneled to Somalia and to fund this globalist bankster attack on the United States, an attack on United States interests. Ilhan Omar was the one who brought in the Meals Act into the United States Congress. Her grift is she went from something like having like $65,000 before she got into Congress to now having $30 million, right? All of that. But now we've got huge, hard DHS moving hugely into Minnesota, knocking down doors. And we see with the Hilton Hotel, we saw Nick Sorter coming out, went to a Hilton Hotel where they had refused to rent rooms to DHS, exposing that all happening. But this globalist club of transferring of wealth, okay, is all within this healthcare fraud scheme that they set up with the Biden auto plan. And Michael Byrd, the murderer of Ashli Babbitt, he got an auto pen pardon for crimes future or, past or future, right? Which is this $190 million. But President Trump's already come out and said that all of the executive orders done by AutoPen are moot and void. And so this is what we hope for justice, okay? Hope for justice as we look at this coming out. It's so fantastic. It's so exciting. I hope you're as excited about it as I am, because this is what justice is. This is what God does. It's what God does, right? And especially with Mike Lindell, he's going to have to go up against Amy Klobuchar, massive villain, massive. Let's look at her for a full audit. Everything that she's done for a decade here is just it's going to be exposed if she runs for governor. It's going to be exposed hard, and she'll have to rely on the mainstream media disinformation system. But that is losing the hearts and minds by the day in the millions. And so while we look at what's coming forward here with Mike Lindell running for governor in Minnesota, Royce White running, of course, for Senate, this is like capturing one of our heartland states, okay, that had been captured way back in the 70s by corrupt, um, uh, every kind of corruption, okay, that you can imagine. A lot of it having to do with satanic ritual abuse. You get into Michigan with Gerald Ford and all of this. It is so creepy and disgusting how the capture of these states, and it goes into Canada, and Canada is going to be next. This the exposure of the second, what is the second city of London, which is their proxy banks across the world, is part of what will be exposed here in the coming months. And so I say yes, yes, Denmark, that if Trump goes for Greenland, that the NATO is over. Yes, 100%. Go for Greenland, and Greenland will be happy. And this end of NATO, it could not come too soon. And so I'm going to leave it there, I think, folks, with Abukar Dahir Osman being exposed for his progressive health care in Ohio. Hundreds of sites of this healthcare system that has already been convicted of Medicaid fraud massively. And that we have him owning these healthcare systems in Ohio while being the Somali ambassador to the UN, now in charge of course, the UN Security Council, which is in charge of the UN troops going in. History, Libya, right? Samantha Power. We've got HRC in their plundering of Libya and the killing of Gaddafi because of that UN troop control. Claire Bronfman, the Bronfmans, the NXIVM, Keith Raniere, trying to put her husband into control Libya. This is how insane and sick, okay, these people are. And these are not smart people. They're just wealthy and entitled and think that they can just be inserted and it's good to go. And it's not working out. It's not working out that way. And, the reason why, aside from all of us and our activism and our enormous prayers, is because of Donald J. Trump, okay, as the pivotal figure in human history right now, changing the tables to be what is now going to probably be a tripolar world, okay, but it is the fight back against the globalist bankster elite to finally have America take its stand and survive and thrive. And so I'm 100% behind it. And so I hope that you enjoyed this video. I will plug here for my fantastic C60 Evo sponsor. But before I do so, I will say, if you found something in this video that you find to be added value to your understanding and you want to support the channel, there's ways to do so below. Supporting monthly really helps me know how I can move forward in 2026, and I so appreciate that. And we have, of course, c60evo.com, also my incredible sponsor. And this product is a game changer for people wanting to clear out the crud from their mitochondria. And this has to do with the toxins, the chemtrails, the detoxing from the V shots, all of this product of C60 Evo. This is the ESS60 molecule made in the best lab in the world in Houston, Texas. That's used in all the studies. They're doing new studies now on migraines. Incredible effect on stopping migraines and their how often you get them and how severe they are. It's amazing. But also for every kind of degenerative disease bought up hugely by the big C clinics, this molecule is enormous to fight inflammation. People generally just use it to have better focus, better mood, better outlook on life, plus then better sleep. And that is the immediate benefit. But if you're dealing with nervous disorders, nervous issues that came after the V, this product is amazing for how it helps to repair your mitochondria, which is cellular health. With cellular health, you defeat all of your degenerative diseases, because that is what aging is your cells failing to work properly. And in the globalist elite's plan for humanity, it was to accelerate the degeneration of our cells, to absolutely alter our genetic everything, alter our DNA, to basically make us stupider and sicker. And this neo-feudalism that they were going for is ending. So, but it's a huge fight. Anyway, c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. Anybody who supports the channel automatically gets 15% off with a different code sent to you. These are the liquids. This is the MCT oil, the coconut oil. People love this. It has less of the effective ESS60 in it, because of coconut oil can only hold so much. But it is fantastic as MCT, paleo oil, for your workouts, for your recovery, etc. Actually preventing the damage before the workout, so that you don't suffer as much from your workouts. And then things like the facial serum with its 21 incredible phytonutrients, all natural, all organic, with this incredible rosemary scent that is just off the charts. People just love it. Because it has the ESS60 in it, it protects from radiation, EMF, as well as sun radiation that is not really the sun, but the result of sun that has been totally destroyed by the chemtrail layer, that then sends down this glaring white light that is not the yellow light of the sun. Any who's what's. Check it out below, c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this video to be helpful and upbeat, because what a birthday today we got with J6 and the situation of Mike Byrd exposed, and that $190 million didn't sit in his pocket. We're looking at a lot of Congress, and this, I've been talking about this for now ever since Brian Thompson's assassination. This is the the thing that can break the dam here in what can come legally in prosecutions. This is here and now, without having to go back 5 years. We want those prosecutions, but this is here and now, and it can be captured now. So we pray for that. We pray for the guidance that these prosecutions will go forward. So thanks so much for watching. You are free, and I will see you tomorrow.